Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Strategic Wealth Strategies podcast with our host, Alan Porter. Alan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Beautiful day here in North Carolina, blue skies and no wind.
Hey, you know what? It's great to be getting closer and closer to spring. We're almost there for sure. And our topic today is things you may not be aware of. Alan, what are you talking about?
Well, there's so many things that people aren't aware of, Neil. But I just did a video. It'll be on YouTube probably within a week. But like the 401k. The 401k was introduced in the United States in 1981, and it's by accident. It has never been stress tested or analyzed for how taxes in the future will affect the people in retirement, especially the baby boomers. I mean, think about that. There's no testing or anything to see how it would perform, but it's the number one retirement asset of Americans. And many people, I've gone over this with you before, a 1% fee in a 30-year period will reduce your income by 1/3. And the average fee in a 401k across America is 2.99%. And that can be confirmed with lap times. I mean, people are going to have less than half their retirement, Neil. And on top of that, now guess what? You're going to have 20 to 50% less and more of that income because of taxes.
So, what's the difference between a 401k and mutual fund? Like a mutual fund that you go and get your own investments. What's the
Well,
difference to the
the mutual funds, they have fees that are over 4%.
wow?
And you can have, that's what I tell people. I ask people, I said, well, I got a bunch of mutual funds there. And Morningstar rates it. And I said, what's the rating on that? It was a 5-star or 6-star, whatever it is they have, Morningstar does. I said, it's a 6-star when you're a 5-star when you bought it, but what is it 6 months later? It may be a 1-star. So mutual funds are traded 2 or 3 times a year. And when they do that, that incurs more fees for you to pay. People aren't aware of that.
Totally. And so, and just basically what you're saying is a lot of people always hear their advisors say the average return is this. Would, um, what do people really need to know?
Well, now think about this, Neil. I wanted to just give you a Reader's Digest version of this. Let's say that you had $100,000, okay, and you had 100% gain the first year. You've got $200,000, correct? All right. You had a
Yes.
50% loss the next year. Now you're down to $100,000.
Okay.
And then the third year, you have 100% gain again. You're back to $200,000. But the fourth year, you had a 50% loss. Now you're back down to $100,000. Now you average that 100% gain, that 50% loss, the 100% gain, and a 50% loss. That's a 25% average return. But your actual returns, Neil, is zero because you're right back to where you started at.
How does the market work like that? I know it's pretty common sense, but it's harder to gain in the market than lose in the market, it sounds like.
Well, the thing is, Neil, people don't understand if you have a 50% loss in the market, it takes you 100% gain just to get back to even. Now, think about that. I don't think the market, when it went down like 38 to 52% in 2008, it wasn't until the fall, I believe, of 2017 where it got back to where it was. And everybody thinks the market is doing great, but as compared with inflation, it's only a gain of 6%. During the previous administration, when the stock market was doing great, but it was a gain of 36% in your value, not just 6%, because the inflation was held down among many, many other things. And something that people don't understand, they're saying that the inflation rate is down tremendously. Well, the inflation rate doesn't take into account the price of gas or fuel. It's really around, I would say, 15 to 17%. I mean, I'd love to um, have that $1.89 gas back. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. I've heard you speak about sequence returns risk. Can you
Yep.
give kind of give me a detailed explanation of this and why people don't know about it?
Well, first off, it will devastate a person's retirement. Now, understand, let's say that you have a 10-year period or a 20-year period, and you have a loss in the first 3 years of that 10 or 20-year period as compared to a loss in the last 3 years of that 10 or 20-year period. Okay, Neil, let's say that you had $1 million in that portfolio. Now, at a 4% distribution rate, that's $40,000 a year, but that's not guaranteed. Now, that
Right.
used to be the standard distribution rate to last, I believe, for 30 years. But now that distribution rate is down to 2.8%. That's only $28,000. And then you still have taxes on top of that. But you'd only need to have approximately, oh, well, get back to this. And let's say you had that $1 million let's go back to 2000, from 2000 to 2010. The market lost 4%. If you put $100,000 in it, you had $96,000 less fees. You probably had $80,000 or $85,000 left over a 10-year period. But let's say that you retired in 2000 with that $1 million stock portfolio, and you got a 40% or 4% distribution rate. All right. The next year you had a 10% loss. Well, that $1 million is down to 100,000 minus the $40,000 you took out, minus the fees that you still have to pay that financial advisor. So maybe you've only got $840,000 in that. Okay. Now, instead of that 4% distribution rate, you've got to take a 7 or 8% distribution rate to give you the same $40,000.
Right.
And then if it happens again, now we're talking about a 10 to 15% distribution rate. It happens again, we're talking over a 20, 25% distribution rate. You're going to be out of money in your 8th or 9th year, maybe before. And a stock portfolio only compounds this risk, along with every other risk in retirement that cash value life insurance or fixed index annuities can mitigate or eliminate altogether. You know, things like number one fear in retirement, Neil, is running out of money before you run out of life. You know, stock portfolio can't guarantee you guaranteed income. Longevity risk, which is a risk multiplier. The older you get, the more risk you're going to have. Long-term care risk. But I show people how to have guaranteed income in retirement, even if their assets go to zero. And people ask me, Alan, how's that possible? I said, because insurance companies manufacture mortality credits that banks, financial stock portfolios, savings accounts, real estate, they can't provide this. And I tell people there's a city in the United States that I think was built after insurance, follow the same type of thing. And it's called Las Vegas. Now, all we have to do is win 1% of the time, and they're making billions and billions of dollars. Insurance companies have it covered on both sides. If you die too soon with life insurance, and if you live too long through fixed indexed annuities. Now, I don't deal in variable annuities because they're tied to the market and their fees are over 4%. But think about that. They only have to win a percentage of the time, and they've been around for hundreds of years. They're the strongest financial institution, as far as I'm concerned, most powerful other than the government. And the only reason the government can raise taxes and print money. But they're the only financial entity that paid dividends during the Great Depression. Everybody else went under. And it's just a matter of education that people don't want to hear. We've been inundated by the propaganda of Wall Street and CPAs and financial advisors is max fund your IRA to get that big tax deduction while you're working, and then they tell you, well, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket because you'll be retired and things like that. But the thing is, you're not going to have your children as a tax deduction. Your house may be paid off, so you don't have the interest on the house. But believe me, when you go to retire, your expenses aren't going down. And I want to talk to people that want to live the same way they're doing now or in a better financial situation. I mean, the cost of healthcare alone for a couple age 65, Neil, I think it's at $340,000 that they've got to pay out. And that's just the average. That's a lot of money. And, you know, there's things like, you know, Tom Hegna says, you know, which day do you usually spend the most money all the time? And everybody says, well, Saturday we go out, you know, vacate or do whatever we would. But Saturday's the time we spend the most money. Well, guess what? In retirement, every day's Saturday. And now here's another expense that people don't take into consideration. And I do because I spend a lot of money on them. It's my grandkids. Now, some people do, some people don't, but I do. And I have a joy doing it because they're great.
Yeah, it sounds like because of sequence returns risk, because of these specific things, you really don't have enough for retirement following the traditional ways.
Well, the thing is, it's been proven by a Harvard study. If you have guaranteed income in retirement, you have a less stressful, happier, healthy, and longer life because you don't have to worry the stress about the ups and downs of the market. I talk to people all the time that have gone out of money, lost all their money in the market.
Wow. Do you have a case with someone in retirement that was affected by some of the risks in retirement that you've spoken about in our other podcasts?
Well, absolutely. I've got a lot of. I mean, they had millions of dollars in their stock portfolio, but that's the only thing they had, and they ran out of money. But the other thing, I had this one gentleman. Now he's a multimillionaire. He had $1 million in a stock portfolio in his IRA that he was going to will to his grandson. And I told him, well, you can't do that. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, I think I made him mad because I said, whose is that? He says, well, it's mine now. And there's my name on the account. I said, yeah, but you have a partner in this. It's called Uncle Sam. And at that time, this was back in 2017, I believe, he was in the 39.6% tax bracket, which we're going to in the January 1st, 2027. We're going back to the taxes that were in 2017. And some people in the the 10%, excuse me, the 12% minimum tax bracket are going to 25%. Not everybody, but that's over 100% increase. All tax brackets are going up. But I told him, I said, you got a partner in this. It's called Uncle Sam. Just at federal taxes alone, you've lost 40% of that stock portfolio. So now you're down to $600,000. And I said, you can't transfer that money to your grandson because of the Secure Act that was enacted a year and a half or two ago. And I said, because the money that has in these accounts can go to your spouse or a disabled person, or it has to be spent in a 10-year period, taxed at whatever your beneficiary's tax rates are. And then I asked him, he was 65 years of age, Neil, and I asked him, what about your required minimum distribution? He said, Alan, what are you talking about? I said, if you don't take the money, at that time it was 70 and a half, I think it's 72 to 73 or 75 right now, depends on when you're born. But if you don't take the amount of money from your qualified plans, 401k, IRA, or things like that, that the government tells you to take, it's a 50% penalty plus all your taxes. And his eyes got about this big. I said, you're going to have less than 5% of your money. You've got federal tax, you've got state tax, you've got ATM tax. It's just the taxes go on and on and on. And here's a Congressional Budget Office report put out in the fall of 2022 on a $31 trillion deficit. If taxes aren't raised by over 66% by the year 2030, we can't even pay the interest on the debt. The country's going to go bankrupt. Well, Neil, it's now over $34 trillion and growing. It's crazy.
If people took a different mindset, an out of the box way that you teach, Alan, they're not going to be stressed as much about this. They're going to be, purchasing cash value life insurance than annuities and really budgeting, getting rid of a lot of their debt and really having a stress-free retirement, debt-free. That's the bottom line. And the other method is there's too much risk and you're going to be spending a ton because they're not going to be teaching the things that you're teaching, right? About being responsible.
I'll give you a perfect example. My brother-in-law is down here visiting, and he's 68 years of age. And he recently had 2 heart attacks and two strokes and a heart attack a couple months ago. Now he's recovering from that, but he's got $180,000 in his 401k. He's got Social Security. And I said, how much are you taking out of that? He says, well, I take money out of it every now and then. I call them up, say, I need this much money, and they'll give it to me. I said, have they ever told you about any of these risks in retirement? And he said, no, I don't know what you're talking about, Alan. So I went over and so I did a fixed indexed annuity for him where I showed him the amount of money that he could take out every year, guaranteed for the rest of his life. And he couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. But so now I got to deal with his financial advisor. And so I put a packet together. I think will blow her out of the water. Because she'll have no rebuttal for everything I'm saying. But Neil, it's just a matter of education for people. They need to know, they need to think outside the box, conventional financial plan. And I'm the one you need to talk to, or somebody that has my mindset. Because Neil, I used to be a registered investment advisor where I did a stock and bond portfolio, but I got a real, block in my brain about charging people a fee, whether you make money or not. Now I have people in my team. I have a team of people I work with. If you want a stock and bond portfolio, that's fine. But you need to be diversified in your assets, especially in retirement. You need to eliminate the risk in retirement. You got a stock portfolio, savings account, real estate or a bond portfolio only compound. And I'll have other people, the top CPAs, tax specific attorneys, and other specialists in their fields, and we collaborate together to give clients the best possible scenario for their financial problem. And I'm very, very passionate about this, as you well know. And I had a guy today said, Alan, you're 70 years of age. When do you think you're going to retire? I'm never going to retire, Neil, as long as I have a healthy mind and I can educate people.
Yeah, you'll have a healthy mind. You keep reading, working out, and keeping that brain active and enjoying life. Best place people can go is strategicwealth0@gmail.com. You can email him, call him at 910-551-1046, or just message him on social media. New website to come. Lots of big things to come in 2024, and we appreciate Alan you stopping by.
You bet. Have a great day.
All right. That was the Strategic Wealth Strategies podcast, guys. Take care.